Oh, we're in. Okay. Oh my God. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Armand Lando was trying to count us in and apparently clicked and then forgot to finish counting. So we're all sort of, is this a thing that's happening? So, okay, cool. That kind of day. That's totally fine. I'm here for it. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Sorry for the backlighting. Welcome,
Sorry,
Connor.
but son.
Right? Like it's a thing that's happening. There's hi Connor. Connor just came back from the back of this walk.
Hey, Kyle. Yes, we are running a few minutes late. It is entirely my fault. We will just go with the rationale that our stream runs on gay time now, and just occasionally
Totally
we're doing our hair, and we show up.
Yeah, absolutely.
I apologize though. Any viewers out there, I apologize.
Get him at him.
Give me.
There's I love the fact that you're walking. I was just telling Lando, I just started doing Pokemon Go, got it like a week ago. So I have not yet been walking too much with it. I was talking about I'm trying to figure out ways to get myself out and doing things, and one of the issues is with my DID and my PTSD is that I have hypervigilance, which means that I have to be aware of everything that's happening around me at all times.
Oh my goodness.
And so it is, if I go to a restaurant, I hate sitting in a seat that is has its back to a door or something like that. And it has been really bad for me on dates because if I go on a first date, they just assume, I've literally been asked, are you checking every single person out to see whether or not there's someone better? And I'm like, no, oh my God, I'm sorry. I don't even know that I'm doing it. It is literally,
ouch.
It is literally a thing to see whether this person is a potential threat.
Oh.
And then I immediately, and I was mortified. And it's one of those moments where it's like a first date and you have to explain to them, so I'm a little broken. And here's how.
Welcome to Kyle's Land of Misfit Toys.
Yay!
I'm the king of Misfit Toys. No, there's it's Pokemon Go for me at least. I do tweet a lot about Pokemon Go at least once a day. Just oh yeah, I didn't catch anything good. For me personally, it gamifies exercise enough that I don't notice that I'm exercising. If I had to only walk, I might be able to do that for a little while, but it loses its interest.
Yeah,
but gaming is a passion, right? If you're watching this, for you also probably gaming is a passion. So it makes it feel like a game, and now I just always want to walk a little bit further because who knows what I'm going to catch over there.
Yeah.
And that works for me. The doctor, my doctor, not the doctor. There's more than one.
No, there's not. There's just
my doctor, who is amazing, has pretty much told me that I'm at the point where I have to begin dropping weight or it's going to have an incredibly adverse effect on my health. And then started showing me blood work that proved it. So then I'm like, okay, fine. So I've been catching a lot of Pokemon this summer. Today is Pokemon Go Community Day. So if you're out there in the community catching Starlies, good luck. I hope you catch all of them. Be the best there ever was. If you're here watching us, thank you. We heart all of you.
Absolutely. And the nice thing is that you can turn on your Twitch, come and join us, and then you can pop into Pokemon Go and you can listen to us while you are on the go with your Pokemon.
It's true. Or you could just watch us on Twitch while you're walking.
Yeah, absolutely. So I used to do a thing where like anytime I moved to a new area, I would find a way to have appointments that were between 1 and 2 miles away, and
Okay.
I would always walk so that it would be
Brilliant.
because it's like there was one where it was like when I lived in San Diego, my this was fun. My therapist's office was about 1 mile away, was about 1.5 miles away. And then my favorite bar was 1.5 miles past that. And so I would walk to the therapist's office and then I'd walk to the bar to process the shit that I just dealt with in the therapist's office.
I love it.
And then I would walk myself sober, I'd have like a drink or two. And mind you, I wasn't getting like hammered because this was normally at like 3 or 4 in the afternoon.
Right, yeah,
But go sit on the patio, have a drink, look at something pretty.
Any more than that, I mean, that would be bad. You're a God-fearing Christian, Kyle.
My father was, that's true. So I have no fear of God because I do not believe that God is cruel. So
that is the big leap. That is the there's somebody who's all great and powerful and made us, and he will kill you in a moment. So you better love him.
Oh my God, it was so ridiculous. So to answer your question, I have no idea how to pronounce this, but I'm assuming that the second part of it is Mariana Colon. I don't know what to do with the FM, if that's like the radio station or if it's something else. But my favorite part was actually the Eagle in San Diego. And in large part, in a lot of places where I go, I love the Eagle, mainly because like if it's during the day, if it's like happy hour-ish, it's dead. Like there's only you and like a couple bartenders. And so for a couple of hours, you get to just chat and have a lovely time. And you don't have to worry about anything. And occasionally something pretty will wander in, like it's just, but it's not like I worked in, just so many restaurants and bars, especially gay bars. And when things get crowded, it's just, at this point in my life, I'm like, it's a lot. Like this is a lot, and I don't need this much.
That was me at the Pride Fest. We had a Pride weekend here in town, our first ever small town Americana Pride Festival.
Ooh, very nice.
It still drew a lot of people, which was surprising and cool. But it got so packed by where the drag queens were performing that it took me like 3 to 5 minutes to cross the street through the crowd. I'm like, yeah, no, that's okay. See you later, ladies. Wave goodbye to the drag.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where like those are the days when I worked in the clubs, those were the days where I wouldn't go to the club because I knew what that was going to be like. Now, mind you, I could go to the bar because I worked there and I would immediately get served. But if I was not an actual employee of the place, you're just, it's a mess. And you can't get anything. When I was bartending down in the French Quarter of New Orleans, during festival season, you're literally 7 or 8 people deep at the bar. Like it's just, you cannot move. And so what I would do is like, people would come up and they would try to order a drink that they wanted, and I would literally tell them to shut the fuck up. Like, I would just be like, are you kidding me with this shit? You want a goddamn Sazerac right now? I have literally 400 people to serve in the next 20 minutes.
Right.
Okay? like no. And what I would do is I would take a tray and I would make like 10 vodka tonics. I would just pour the vodka in, spray the tonic in. I just let the train be like, who wants a vodka tonic? And everybody would be like, $5, vodka tonic, come on. And the thing is that they were $4. And I knew that like 90% of these people were not going to be able to make it to the bar to tip. And I'm like, so just be like, 20% tip. Here you go. Vodka tonic. We're doing this right now. And they're just, yeah, it was delightful.
Yeah.
Those days in the service industry when you actually get to tell people to shut the fuck up.
Right.
Like,
Yeah. You just have to have some pre-made stickers that say like margarita on them. And so like when somebody orders a margarita, you walk over, you put the beer in front of them, slap the margarita sticker that you hand wrote on it, screw it open and pass it. Like, here you go. Yeah, I mean, what else can you do? Yeah, too many people.
Absolutely. Oh my god, I failed. Do you like our new emote? That's Sune, the goddess of love, who plays a big part in our campaigns at home. I love it. Yeah, it makes me happy. There's Vale is they are now part of our Tuesday campaigns. So welcome to Plain Nerd Allies, honey. I'll see you on Tuesday when you try to ruin like the world for all my heroes. I can't wait. It's so exciting. I don't have to be the only one now. There's yes. I'm a firm believer in a genial but adversarial relationship between players and DMs. Where it's like there is the understanding we are working at cross purposes in the story. At the table, we're all working together, but in the story, you have to understand this is. And I'm sorry, I just finished like rewatching the entirety of season 9 of RuPaul's Drag Race.
Oh no.
Because it just dropped on Hulu. So I was just about to say, this is not Kyle Durkee's best friend's race. Okay. Yeah, it's a big thing. Is your DM should be trying to put a lot of obstacles in your way, a lot of craziness.
That tension is where the story comes from.
Mm-hmm. And I appreciate that there are definitely some settings out there and some play styles that are, very gentle and there's not a lot of conflict and things like that. And I'm totally down for that if you want something nice and relaxing. Like if really that week you just want to chill and you just want to have fun with your friends, totally fine. But if you're putting out a thing into the world and there's supposed to be a story attached to it, then there should be some conflict somewhere.
Right.
Even
if you're playing that, that setting, that conflict light game, and the entire thing is on going to the coffee shop, having a barista that can't get your coffee right is more than enough conflict for that story, right?
I'm sorry. Now I really want to do a thing like that, where like there's supposed to be this big old adventure, and you're like hyping it up and you send your players to the coffee shop first. And every time the barista puts down a coffee, the name is spelled wrong. And you start yelling at the barista for spelling your name wrong. And then somebody whose name is actually spelled that way shows up and grabs their coffee. And it's just over. And everyone has the same name with different spellings in the whole coffee shop. And the entire adventure becomes figuring out who's got whose fucking
whose coffee is whose.
I think that would be a delightful little horribleness to throw at your players. I think that's fun.
I like it.
I'm thinking, what do we want to do today? One of the things that I was since we're talking about Pokemon Go, mm-hmm. Maybe we want to do a little bit of wildlife.
Ooh.
A little something like that. See what we've got, because we do have a couple of original creatures in our world so far. So I'm wondering if we have got if we can sort of create some basic new fun creatures, that will for the different ecosystems. So one of the things we created a whole ecosystem in the plains around a town called Dustbury. these, so the way it works is that you have, around this town called Dustbury, they are known as the Hissing Plains. And the reason they're called the Hissing Plains is because occasionally you will get this, like, you'll be walking and suddenly the entire area will just start to sort of erupt into this hissing sound, and nobody can figure out what it was for the longest time. We eventually did. But in this area, what you had were all of these ironbark trees. And the ironbark, because it's organic and not metallic, amongst there were these huge trees that were used to create like really good non-metallic weapons, armor, stuff like that. And underneath these trees, they had these giant root systems. And we created a whole ecosystem where it was rust monsters that had taken up residence here and created these huge colonies of thousands of rust monsters, right, below the surface, in their little dens. And they had created a symbiotic relationship with yellow slimes. Or yellow molds, I can't remember which one it is. But they are highly acidic, but rust monsters are immune to acid. And the way that the baby rust monsters would actually generate their sort of acidic, like caustic ability to destroy metallic weapons is the eggs of the rust monsters were laid into the slime. And because they were immune, they would not be harmed, and they would grow and they would absorb through their egg sac all of this acid. And so they would grow up immune to acid and with the ability to actually spew it at things, sort of coated all the time with it. And then when something disturbed a nest, or they could feel vibrations above them in the ground above them, this, like, one nest would start hissing, and then all of the nests around them would start hissing to warn predators away.
Okay.
So you now have the hissing wastes underneath, or the hissing plains underneath the ironwood trees.
That is really cool.
Yeah, I like it.
That is really, really cool. Now I have all of these questions, right?
Well, here, let's pop open our document. Let me get over there. And I will set up. Let me go back. Sorry, I'm in a different spot in my Google Docs, so now I need to. Apologies, everyone. Please talk amongst yourselves. Go catch some starlies. We'll be back with you in just a moment. All right, we're going to continents, to bazaar, and to merchantry. And we've got the hissing plains. All right. We've got, I need to change this because it's not the hissing wastes. I wrote it in two different ways here. One is hissing wastes and one is hissing plains. I like the hissing wastes or the hissing plains better because it is a place that's full of life. It's very much like a savanna.
And it's flavorful.
Yeah. And it's a place where you do not want to bring your metallic weapons because there are rust monsters everywhere at differing stages of maturity, you know? So it's one of those things where if you sleep under the wrong tree, you know, you will wake up and they'll just be gone.
You'll just be wearing the straps that your armor was in, right?
That's it.
You know, you come up ready for battle and you leave ready for pride.
Right.
Leather straps everywhere.
Give me one sec while I prep this. Let's see. All right. And we're going to set this up. Let us do, so I'm going to put in here, we're going to have a flora section, we're going to have a fauna section. And fauna. We're going to do rust monsters. Is it yellow slimes or mustard slimes? I cannot. This is going to piss me off.
I think it's yellow mold.
Yellow mold, thank you.
And yeah, and I'm going to just confirm that it is, if my computer will cooperate myself. Let me do a quick search. If I look for yellow mold, random encounters, a patch of yellow mold. Yes, from the Dungeon Master's Guide. Random dungeon hazards.
All right, so now let's ask your questions. And chat, please ask us questions. We love questions from chat. Some of the most fabulous concepts that we have pulled together are because somebody asked an awesome question in chat and inspired us. So you are inspiring and we love you for it. So definitely, if you want to know about this ecosystem, about the ironbark trees or the rust monsters or the yellow molds or how it all works together, please throw that in the chat and then we can see what is going on. Is what we can do. Let's see. So what are your questions?
So it's such an interesting
yes, because so I sometimes will have a voice in my ear named Lando. And so if I stop talking and I look like I'm listening to something, it is Lando who cannot be heard in chat on stream asking for things. So apologies if suddenly there's just, I'm in the middle of a sentence and just stop. It's because I have then heard Lando say a thing. All right, I'm gonna send over a thing to you, Lando, so that you have it. And I will send one over and Lando, will you send that over to Connor? And then we'll all be literally on the same page. And that's delightful. Okay, so Connor, tell me about these questions since you're so goddamn nosy.
I'm so nosy. So this is obviously a symbiotic relationship, right? Just like in nature where you have two life forms that just sort of get an advantage from each other. The rust monsters are able to take advantage of the properties of the yellow mold and eat them and live among them and sort of work that acid into their own bloodstream, which gives them a potent defense. But these things aren't usually one directional.
No. So one of the things
what does the mold get out of it?
One of the things I'm discovering in my world building in general is that I'm really big, and this is just my personality like coming out into my world. I'm really big on efficient systems, just situations where you don't need 17,000 moving parts. And so one of the things that I love seeing in like nature documentaries are systems in nature in our world where, for instance, like the waste of one creature is the food of another. Like one of my favorites is that there's literally there are rodents in the Amazon that have been trained to use the toilet. Not one of our toilets, but they're little pitcher plants that literally like the mouse will go and like lick. The way they're set up is they've got like a sticky sugar-filled substance on the lid of the pitcher plant, and the mouse will go and start licking the sugar, which it needs because it's got a high metabolism, and then we'll just poop into the pitcher plant, and that gives the pitcher plant all of the nutrients it needs to keep going. And so it's literally created a little mouse potty for everybody in this. And I love that. I love things like that. So I feel like essentially the thing that a slime would get out of this is that it would most of the time stay in its pools. Like biological inertia is a thing where it's like, okay, this slime wants to expend as little energy as possible to get as much nourishment as possible, right?
Right.
So if it can just literally stay there and grow and then split off and then find another depression to go and sit in, which of course there would be plenty of because these rust monsters are growing and changing and are constantly digging new burrows and things like that. And the rust monsters are the ambulatory ones, then the waste of the rust monsters absolutely would feed these slime molds.
And in addition, you're right. They, in their motions, they would take these spores from this mold around and allow it to. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So I'm just going to make some notes here. So rust monsters make their nests among the roots of the iron bark trees. The trees are organic and not metallic. So rust monsters do not harm them. They lay their eggs. They lay their eggs in the mold, and due to their immunity to acid, the eggs are safe within the mold itself. The mold transfers its acidic abilities to the growing rust monsters. And the yellow mold depends on the rust monsters for food. The mold consumes the waste of the rust monsters and is carried and is carried and their spores are carried in the rust monster feces. So when a rust monster creates a new colony, a new yellow mold is quickly created. There we go. I love it. All right, so we've got a fun little ecosystem. Let's see what the next thing is. So this is an example of sort of ecosystems that I like. I like functional ecosystems that, we can then add other relationships on top of that. Like what lives in the boughs of the, iron bark trees. And, it would have to be, for instance, you couldn't have like small birds because the iron bark tree is so strong. It's not like it just sort of like that, like little branches break off all the time. So small birds wouldn't be able to actually like find the stuff necessary to build nests,
Right.
things like that. So you would have to have like something that could, like for instance, I would love if like in these trees it's like monkeys instead of birds. Like there's no birds really anywhere, in this area, but it's like monkeys who can actually use tools, something like that. Or like sloths, like sloths, like maybe we've got some like really cool sloths that have, because they eat iron bark leaves, have like super crazy sharp talons, stuff like that. They don't move very fast, but like their, their fur is, well, now what we need to do, now that I'm diving into this, now we need to look at what makes the ironbark trees so strong.
Oh, okay.
And I feel like, so one of the things, so the way that a tree's biology works, and correct me if I'm wrong here, is that you get, I cannot remember the word for it, but the difference between essentially, like, 'cause ultimately a tree is just a very tall grass.
Really, yeah.
Like that's ultimately what it is. And it's, I think it's a word that starts with L and I can't remember it, but it is what makes up the core of the tree. And it's these, essentially, like it is a stem sort of internally. And it goes all the way up. And then as that ends, yes, are you looking it up right now?
Of course I'm looking it up.
Of course you are. Of course you are. I love it. I love it.
So thank you, USDA. So the description of a tree, and so heartwood is the central supporting pillar of the tree.
Yeah.
Although dead, it will not decay or lose strength while the outer layers are intact. A composite of hollow needle-like cellulose fibers bound together by a chemical glue called lignin. It is in two ways as strong as steel. So it's cellulose bound together by glue. So it is like nature's plywood.
Yeah. So what I would say is that these trees, when they are converting something from, essentially, because lignin is, I believe that it's generated through photosynthesis, or it's like one of the internal mechanisms in a tree that photosynthesis creates the energy for by creating the sugars necessary for the tree to survive. I feel like in this situation, what's happening is that the internal structures of the tree are not creating sort of a polymer glue that lignin is, that what they are actually creating is they are creating carbon nanotubes. That they are perfectly putting together like the most efficient form of connecting the carbon atoms to each other. So you have these, so that's why it's non-metallic. It's perfectly biological because it's all carbon. But essentially it's tubes of diamond that are just a couple of molecules thick. So the leaves would still be okay to eat because that's where the machinery that's creating these things, where it's happening, but inside the tree itself, it's creating carbon nanotubes.
Okay. Yeah, so that's sort of like string diamonds almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's all a diamond is carbon that's bonded in a really efficient way because of high pressure.
Yeah.
Okay, very cool. So where does it get all this carbon then, Kyle?
I am gonna say that this is where actually where the symbiosis between the rust monsters and the slime molds of the tree comes into place, is that for these other creatures, one of the things that they do is they cannot process the carbon. So when they eat an adventurer, they're attracted to the metal, but they will still eat the adventurer, and they can consume and utilize all of the different elements from that adventurer except the carbon. So their nests are just full of like little carbon pellets, essentially, that then the tree roots absorb.
Okay. Okay. That I just think that's really cool. So you've got this setup with these plants and animals that live in some degree of symbiosis, right? The the uh, the rust monsters would not have their potent natural defenses without the yellow mold. The yellow mold would have a harder time spreading without the help of the rust monster, and then the trees pull nutrients from the environments that the rust monsters create as well.
Yeah. So I think that's super fun. All right, so let's get that in there. So the ironbark trees, these trees are as strong as diamonds due to the way that they process carbon. Instead of lignin holding the cells of the internal God, I can't spell today, structures of the trees together, they are bonded with carbon nanotubes created by the photosynthetic process that keeps the tree alive. They gain this carbon from the symbiotic relationship with the rust monsters and yellow mold, who can consume all types of metallic substances except carbon. As they build nests under the roots of the ironbark trees, their waste feeds the trees' need for carbon. Fabulous. All right, cool. So we have got a super awesome, fabulous thing. All right, so Mariana Colin, are they solidly thick, or do animals live inside the burrows, holes in the tree trunks? So I think very much like other hardwood trees, like if you look at like oak trees and stuff like that, that there will be just some sort of like natural hollows that will sometimes happen in the larger trees, and then sometimes animals will go in and make a home there. I think, but in general, they're pretty solid. You know, that's one of the reasons that they're so prized and they're so expensive, is because like essentially in this situation, you would have to go, and it's one of the reasons that the forest is so pristine, or that the plains are so pristine, is because first of all, you can't go in there and get them because there's rust monsters everywhere. And
Right.
even if you got there, would anything that you could create, would it be strong enough to actually penetrate the bark so that you could utilize it? Essentially, you would have to occasionally go in with like a big group of mages or something and use magic to actually extract the bark, while you had like a team of adventurers around you, making sure that like like acidic molds and rust monsters aren't killing everyone.
Don't mess with that tree.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing too, is that as soon as the tree was attacked, there would be, like anytime plants or animals get harmed in the wild, they will release some sort of pheromone or enzyme as a protective mechanism, right? So it could very well be that as soon as a tree is harmed, then some pheromone is released and suddenly all of the rust monsters just erupt from the ground,
Wow.
I think that would be fabulous. There.
I think as a DM, we find these ideas great.
Yeah, exactly.
Players, on the other hand.
Oh, did you like that really cool sword that you had? Where?
Oh my goodness.
No, it's definitely like I'm big as a DM. Like I love giving cool things to my players, and then once the players abuse those cool things, then I take them away. Like it's just, you can have this as long as you're playing nice. Like as long, and it's like I had a whole thing where, and this will be coming back, where like if you do something really cool with your weapon, it evolves into something new and fabulous, and it becomes more powerful and all that kind of stuff. But as a DM, like as a storyteller and as a player, you are also a storyteller in this. I expect you not to fall back on this one thing 70 times in a row because it's super effective. Like, I get it. You want to solve the problem. That's great. But if I've given you something that it's now the only thing that you use, and I'm starting to get bored and you're starting to get predictable, we're no longer telling interesting stories. And that means we have to put another little obstacle in the way. That's what we need to do. Just a little one. Nothing crazy. Like take that item away from you.
Yeah, I seem to recall there was in that vein there was a time I was running Out of the Abyss, and in that I think a lot of people know that in that adventure you fight demon lords. I had a player who got a hold of a magic item, a powerful magic item, and then rebuilt his entire character around that magic item. It's like, well, I'm not level 4, I'm not level 5 yet, so I'd like to rebuild my character. I'm like, okay, well, by our campaign rules, you can do that. It's like, okay. And then he ended up with a character with like a 27 or 28 AC with this ridiculously powerful sword. And then in addition, they went and sort of read the end of the book. So knew what was coming up toward the end.
Oh God.
All right.
So it's like cool. So you've got like a big bad where any trick that the big bad's trying to do instantly is countered.
Yes. Yes. So I fixed it by changing the big bad.
Good. Yeah,
so I'm like, yeah, it's this, right? But the book says it's that. I'm like, yeah, no, the book also says I can change it. So I changed it. And he gave me tips on changing it. So I'm using this big bad. And this big bad can cast Power Word Kill at will. Okay, well,
what?
He casts Power Word Kill on you. Well, like, how's that work? Well, if you have 100 hit points or less, you die instantly. If your current hit point, he's like, no save. I'm like, no save. He's like, but after I rebuilt my character, I don't even have 100 hit points max. I'm like,
I know.
You would have if you didn't rebuild your character around one shtick. It does it. When we're telling stories, even as dungeon masters, right? There is there are certain things that we do to try to make the story just as entertaining for everybody as possible.
Yeah, exactly.
But that role isn't born only by the dungeon master. Yeah. A great player also makes their characters as interesting as possible. And and part of that is understanding that your character will be successful sometimes and
Absolutely.
not successful others, and that you should never be so good at one thing that it gets boring. And that's sort of what
Yeah,
happens.
well, and that's so for me, I call that toxic optimization,
Hmm.
where it's like I'm totally here. You should optimize your characters to a certain extent.
Yeah,
Like
you should
if
be
you,
effective.
yeah, if you've got a monk who's got 6 dexterity, you're not going to be able to do anything. Like, your attacks are all going to suck, and you're not going to be able, like, you're going to get hit all the time. It's just things like that. So you should, like, if you have a monk, you should pay attention to which stats you should have access to, stuff like that. But if you are building your entire character around how to optimize everything that your character does and how to be able to take out threats incredibly quickly, that's, essentially it's if you're trying to be somebody who can be the hero in every single situation, that is toxic, because it means that you are going to, one of the things that I've found in my many, many, many years of DMing with many, many, many people is that if you are the type of person who is a toxic optimizer, the optimization is not the problem. It is the fact that if you lose, or if something you try does not work the way you want it to, you will ruin the game for everyone around you, whining and bitching and moaning and crying about the fact that this didn't work out for you. And you'll just wreck all of the fun for everyone. I'm like, that's the problem with toxic optimization, is that you now think that you should be able to conquer every single situation given to you. Whereas when you're just sort of optimizing a character, you understand sometimes I'm going to have the spotlight and sometimes I can be the hero. Oh shit, I'm in a situation where I'm a rogue and I can do all kinds of cool acrobatic things and we need to do this, that, and the other thing. And I am going to jump from wall to wall to wall up this well that is, like 40 feet high, and I'm going to be able to get up there and peek over the rim and make sure that we're clear and then let the rope down to my friends.
Right.
Absolutely great. But that acrobatic situation is not going to be super useful if you're literally trying to tear down a city wall. Like then somebody else gets to step forward and do something really cool.
And let that spotlight pass for sure. Yeah, it's one of those helpful tips. If you're getting ready, if you're watching this, we're guessing you're probably interested in world building. But if you are also a player, keep in mind that having a character that's cool is one thing. Adventuring is very dangerous work, and it pays very well. And the people that are drawn to that fictional profession and in our fantasy games should be effective. You should have things that make you
there's
able
a
to
reason
survive.
there's a reason that you would be hired to do it.
Correct.
Like even at first level, you will have gained enough of a reputation in like your town that people would be like, oh, they could go and discuss with the goblins without getting murdered immediately, or they could take care of the giant rats in the cellar without being eaten. Like there's enough, like even at first level, you've got enough. And then once you get to like 5th level, like pretty much the country now knows about you, or at least like the region that you're in. And then like by 10th level, kings and queens know you. By 15th level, gods and goddesses have seen what you are doing. And then by 20th level, like you are absolutely one of the most powerful beings in the multiverse at 20th level. So few people make it to that level in the overall multiverse, So
yeah, and it's just remember that that even if you're making a person who can contribute, don't make a character that is flawless in the thing that they contribute. Don't make a character that contributes everything and is always stealing the spotlight. Give everybody a chance. And if your idea of creating a character that's effective means rules optimization, 5e compared to other
Not your
fantasy
thing.
systems. It's so easy. You're not proving anything if you optimize a character to that rule set. You're not proving your ability or your intellect or anything like that. So just don't. Prove that you're a good player to play with. Make a character that people enjoy.
Yeah, well, that's
do
the
things that
thing.
make other people laugh.
Like the best advice that I can give any players out there, if you want to be asked back to a table, well, the first thing is be on time, show up, be fun to work with. Like that's the thing. Like this is, well, you might just be guesting, you are working with these people. Like be available, don't get, move the story up, just be easy to work with and be congenial while you are doing the things. And you will be asked back, even if you don't know the system all that well. But secondly, create a basic concept for your character first. Like, I want to be, a lizard person that has always dreamed of flying.
Yeah.
That is interesting. You can swim, you live in the swamp, like you do all the fun things, but you've always wanted to fly. What does that character look like? How do they try to get there? What class would they take? Would they try to fly through magic? Would they become an artificer and try to make mechanical wings? Would they become a cleric and hope that their god will give them, flight at some point? Like, what's the why? Why are they doing this? And even something just as simple as that one sentence concept, a lizard person that dreams of flying. There's a million options for that, a million ways to get there, and it gives you a motivation, a basic motivation that can change over time. But at the beginning of an adventure, there's something for you to talk to with your other party members about. There is a dream that you have, that you are working towards, a reason for you to keep moving forward, like all of that kind of stuff. So start there and then build a character around that concept that will work with that concept, because there does have to be some optimization there. If you're going to be someone that knows how to fly on a regular basis or gets you got to figure out what path you're going to take and how to get there effectively, how to survive long enough to actually make it where you want to go. So there can be some optimization, but it's not going to be fully optimized, because a fully optimized lizard person would absolutely be someone that specializes in underwater combat. But so go be a pirate. That's what you want.
Right.
So anyway, that's my 2 cents on that whole thing.
It's good. It's good. I mean, it was at the very least a great digression. I think though we have a question about this situation in chat, the one that we're describing.
Yeah, I think so. There are some fabulous things in chat. If you want to optimize to handle all the situations, why participate in a multiplayer game? There's some great single player games out there. That is absolutely true. And I 100% agree with that sentiment. You should absolutely, if you just want to be the only one at the table, be the only one at the table. But recognize that drive and do something about it. Don't try to force everybody else to live out your fantasy, because that's not great.
There is a question here. Are the ironbark trees solidly thick, or do animals live inside or burrow holes in the trunk?
Yeah, so like oak trees, there will be some naturally occurring burrows and things, like some dens available. But generally they're pretty solid.
Okay, so if they're pretty solid, then so like a lot of times insects will burrow into trees to make their homes. Insects will do it. That's what woodpeckers do. They peck at the trees to open up the burrows so they can eat the insects out of the trees.
Well, so let's design this. Let's do this. So when we are looking at when we were looking at these ironbark trees. So first off, let's talk about insects. How I feel like we would not have burrowing insects in the trees because they wouldn't be able to get in. You know, with that kind of bark, with that kind of super strong situation, they simply would not be able to penetrate with what they're doing unless we are dealing with some sort of insect that is specialized to like get into an ironwood bark. I think that the more likely situation would definitely be that we are dealing with things like hornets or wasps that can build their nests outside, that they can use other materials, like, you know, they can go get the cellulose out of grass and they can then use that to create their paper nests, things like that. So I feel like that would be delightful. Do you have any concepts of like any insects that would make sense?
I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think in the fantasy setting, are there insects that have bites or the ability to burrow or something like that could get into metal? They could go through metal. That's what I'm trying to imagine. I'm trying to think of. You know, small or large.
Let's see. Well, I would want these to be, since we've got like sort of the rust monsters, which are an insectoid, I'd like them to be sort of like the alpha insect in the space. Let's see. All right, so we've got, if we're doing all monsters, I don't know, how do we, all right, I'm going to go for the tiny size category and see if there are insects in the tiny size category.
And and that's the thing. So one thing that isn't in a lot of Dungeons and Dragons are tiny insects.
Yeah.
You know, people don't find them as interesting. So you don't have a bunch of entomologists running around cataloging the various insects of a fantasy setting.
Absolutely.
But you know, if it's something where we wanted there to be something that was able to get inside, knowing that
we'll just make it ourselves.
We can make it ourselves.
So what would that insect really look like? So first of all, what would its food source be? Is the question we need to ask, number one. A diamond-beaked woodpecker, I love it, victim. That have been hunted to near extinction for the diamonds in their beaks. Let me see, I think, so the insects, so do we want them to feed on something that is in the environment, like a creature, or do we want them to feed off the ironbark trees themselves?
Well, I would be really so there's a small scientific part of me that would be like, be careful making it eat the ironbark trees themselves, because they're not going to have a lot of natural predators that are eating them. So because they'll be inside an ironbark tree. So there's a small part of me that thinks maybe the larvae eat the tree and then they emerge and fly away. When they're adult.
I'm thinking like maybe like iron, like that they're, so in order to procreate, they have to have, not every tree does this, but the vast majority of them have seeds of some kind.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so they could feed off of the fruit of the tree or something like that, or the flower of the tree, you know. Let me see, I'm looking at different swarms right now. So we've got bats, rats, ravens, just basic swarm of insects. We've got beetles, we've got centipedes, we've got spiders, which are not an insect. There's wasps, um, swarm of rot grubs. Um, okay, yeah. There's I think that this thing should we honestly I feel like we've got enough stuff that like in the sort of that feeds off the ironbark trees. I think I'd like first let's put a predator on top of the land instead of just underneath the land. Let's start there. Let's create a predator and then we can create a prey system and then the things that feed off both the predators and the prey. And that way we can have a fully functioning ecosystem, which is delightful. And oh my God, I'm sorry, I'm looking at chat. I completely forgot to do intros today. I am an idiot. So please bear with me for just a moment, everyone. An hour and 15 minutes into our stream. It's definitely that kind of day. We're having that kind of day.
Happy Sunday, y'all.
I would like to thank our sponsor, Hero Forge, who is absolutely delightful and who has actually the last 4 books that we've put out with Magnificent Mythologies and the next 6 that we will be putting out for Magnificent Mythologies, Hero Forge is the sponsor for. They have made sure that we can pay artists of color and that we can create adventures with writers of color who are interested in coming on and doing this with the Foundation for Inclusivity in Gaming. So thank you, thank you, thank you. The next one to come out is going to be Zeffy Bunnies, which is all about the fabulous myth about why there's only one moon in the sky. It is a huge adventure that you are going to be between 16th and 17th level for, up to 6 players, and essentially you are going to be teaming up with the gods as you battle this dragon and try to stop it from destroying all the moons, including the final one. So that's super delightful. I love that. We haven't done sort of a one shot that is just a giant battle. You know, this would definitely be a fabulous final battle to put as a capstone for any campaign. Like with any sort of, you can shift out what dragon you're using and which pantheon you're using, all that kind of stuff. So it's super awesome there. And then we are going to have a series of adventures that are all done by Indigenous creators. And once we get through those, putting those out, we are going to be teaming up with Coyote and Crow to translate them into the Coyote and Crow setting, so that there will be a whole bunch of one-shot adventures that you can play using Coyote and Crow, which is an uncolonized Indigenous setting, which I absolutely adore. In addition, I would like to thank Phoenix Dice for being one of our sponsors. You can win Phoenix Dice today if you get ! or Apple. And when you win, you can pick any Phoenix Dice that you would like on their entire website. It is delightful. So hit ! or Apple right now, and we will get that started. Then I'd like to thank Idle Champions of the Forgotten Realms. If you look on your screen, you can see a little code. If you go over to Idle Champions of the Forgotten Realms, which is a fabulous mobile game where you get to play, guess what? Champions of the Forgotten Realms! You can use that code to get you an Electrum chest, which will give you the ability to level up your characters. Free Electrum chest using that code. It'll last a week, so if you are watching the VOD, you can still use that chest for a week. So head over to Idle Champions of the Forgotten Realms. In addition, we have several other sponsors that we absolutely adore. And if you'd like to learn more about them, like Souls Rolls, Gemmed Firefly, Realm Warp Media, or D&D Beyond, you can check out our About section. And thank you for bearing with me for that. I think as we enter the second half of the stream and begin to look at predators and prey and really fleshing out, and I love doing stuff like this where it is straight up we are now creating an ecosystem, something that is Like the basis of it is something fantastical and great, but that works. That there is, you understand why these creatures work in tandem with each other, and it's not just, hey, this would be cool. And the moments, like if you're doing one shots and things like that, if you have a this would be cool moment, fabulous. Jump at it, do the thing. It's delightful. And that works because you don't necessarily need to go into why that thing happens. You can say, because magic, because we're in a world that we don't know all the rules for. That's fine. But when you're creating an actual campaign setting, for me, it's actually really important that you like that everything is cohesive and you understand why the history runs the way it does. And you understand why the ecosystem exists the way that it does. Because then you can say, for instance, hey, this is an ecosystem that started 1,000 years ago. What has happened over the course of the last 1,000 years? Have the habitats been disrupted? Have things evolved in a different direction? Has a new creature been introduced or something like that that has changed the way that all this works? And you have a basis from which to then journey into those worlds and those possibilities and still make sure that your world makes sense,
Right.
you know? So, and while most people will never actually read why the ironbark trees exist the way they do and why they went to the ironbark forest and were suddenly attacked by dozens of rust monsters, you know, like there is, while they might not know why that happens, if they ask, it is there and it makes sense. So even if they don't know why, there will be something behind their thought process. It's like, oh, this, okay, cool. This is a thing. So yes, I love it. But I think we should take like a little 5-minute break and then we will finish creating this fabulous ecosystem, which I'm super excited about. And everybody at home, make sure you hit that exclamation point raffle. And what do you want to say? Anything interesting?
Me?
You, the other person. I understand.
Okay, I'm
on the stream with like 7 people, and I'm like, hey, you are the only other person here, Connor. Like,
yes, please hit exclamation point raffle if you would like to win a great set of Phoenix dice. Keep in mind, we're going to take a break. Do the things to take care of yourself. Get a drink of water. Move your body some. Get up. Walk around. It's important for your overall mental and physical health that you do take breaks and you do move around. So therapist's orders, do that, and we'll see you here in a few minutes.
Yay! Hello again.
Hi.
And we're back. We are back creating an entire ecosystem around these fabulous ironbark trees. So right now we've got our ironbark trees. In the roots, you have this symbiotic system between the yellow molds and the rust monsters. The rust monsters lay their eggs inside the yellow molds. The yellow molds can't consume the rust monster eggs because the eggs and the embryos are immune to acid. So they are protected in this pool of essentially acid. And the yellow molds eat the waste of the rust monsters who go out and hunt down things in their vicinity and then, go poop in their dens. But neither one of them can process carbon effectively. So that is what they leave for the tree. So the tree consumes the carbon because it's got so much, it actually creates carbon nanotubes instead of lignin, and that makes their trunks the strongest diamonds.
And this is an interesting swap on your normal tree. Your normal tree pulls its carbon from the air that it breathes, right? It takes in CO2 and releases oxygen. CO2 is carbon and oxygen. It releases oxygen and keeps the carbon for itself, for its own growth. This is a tree that's particularly adapted not only to photosynthesize, to pull carbon out of the air, but it also pulls that carbon out of the dirt.
Yeah.
So it's probably got something special as far as how its root system looks. so that it's able to do this, because this is something that normal trees don't do. And so it's able to do this to have this extra carbon, which it then molecularizes in a potent way that's similar to diamond.
Well, this could be an interesting thing, that it is that the reason that it could very well be that the reason that that it does not process things the same way as others is that it's got photosynthetic receptors in its root system. So that it has got, so they're not quite photosynthetic because there's no sunlight, but it can absorb carbon dioxide, and that's what you get when, like, that's one of the waste products from like the acidification of whatever these things are eating, right? And the waste is going out, that you get a lot of carbon dioxide because there's a mix of both water and, because normally roots will pull water. So it's like, so it's a mix of water, and that sort of acidified carbon would be a really easy thing to absorb through the roots, so it gets all that extra carbon.
Like you'll pull nitrogen out of the soil too that's dissolved in the water, and that sort of thing. So if it would have aerated roots.
Oh my God. Okay, I figured out. There is, I love this. Just a sort of random, here's the thing. There's, it's these pools of like yellow mold that sort of, and they'll look like pools. Like it doesn't grow flat, like they sort of grow. It's sort of like an ooze, that's where the tips of the roots exist. And like slowly the root will like turn into a spiral inside the pool to absorb it, because it's not absorbing the actual mold itself, it's absorbing the moisture within the mold, and in theirs where all of the melted nutrients like nitrogen and carbon and stuff like that are. So there is, I think that'll be delightful. So we've got, so there's lots of, so the mold is very like, it's where the water pools as well. So you've got like the mold and the water, because mold loves water. All right, I love it. All right, I'm glad that we've got that figured out. That we've got
we figured out everything, y'all.
Right, it's done.
It's done. Have a great afternoon. No, just kidding. Yeah. We hope you hang out with us for another hour or so.
Right. So now we need to figure out. So we've got the underground ecosystem pretty well fleshed out with the roots and all that kind of stuff. Now let's talk about, and hey, chat, if you have any questions about any of these things, what's going on, all the delightfulness, please throw those into chat. We want to hear from you. We want to know what you're thinking about over there. So now here's the fun part. Let's set up the ecosystem above ground. Do we want to start with a fabulous predator at the top of the ecosystem, or do we want to have a fabulous prey animal that is the sort of center of the ecosystem?
I always find it makes more sense if you start at the bottom and work your way to the top.
Okay.
Because animals will often adapt to escape prey. They also adapt to eat specialized prey. We've got a very specialized sort of like niche ecosystem here.
So if we have got this, so the first thing is that prey animals would need to be very quiet in order not to disturb the rust monsters, who would then pop up from the ground and eat them.
Cats.
Okay, fabulous.
Cats are ridiculously silent. So I think cats might be a great predator for these trees. They could also escape in the trees, and I don't know if rust monsters are capable of climbing trees.
I don't think they do have a climb speed.
Mm-hmm. But cats do.
Yeah. So it could absolutely be that there's all right, cool. Well, let's look at cats. What kind of cats are we thinking? There is a very famous cat called a displacer beast,
It's not really a cat, though.
No, it very specifically is a cat. So it's very specifically a cat, and it hates blink dogs. They are natural enemies, and they hate each other because they're cats and dogs.
I think it's a joke. It is. They are told they are not cats, and blink dogs are not dogs. It has 6 legs and 10 toes. It's not a cat.
I know plenty of cats that have 6 legs and tentacles that live near toxic waste dumps.
And to you I say Cthulhu Fathagan. But for the rest of a very cool, just specialized cat that lives off of things that would live in that area. It can't live off a tree. Cats are dedicated carnivores, right? It would have to live off of something that could live off the tree. And that's kind of why I honestly sort of want to revisit an insect that might be able to bore its larva into the tree, but then rather than just living in the tree forever, this insect lives there as a larva and then flies out. So that's not just eating the tree forever.
I think we should look at a couple of options, because one of the things that we have to ask ourselves is, how is the rust monster population controlled? And so one of the things that I'm thinking is, because otherwise they would just, literally be everywhere. So one of the things that I'm thinking is that it is a very intelligent type of cat, like not quite human intelligence, but maybe like an intelligence score of like 5 or 6, where it probably is smart enough that it could understand language if it was, if it spent enough time around someone. But what it does, I'm thinking, is it will take either fruit from the trees, like it'll climb the tree and dislodge a fruit so that it falls on the ground. And then when a rust monster comes up out of the ground to see what's going on, then the cat is an ambush predator and will attack it from the heights, attempting to just immediately destroy it. Something like that, where where you could literally they're intelligent enough to maybe a 5 intelligence. They're intelligent enough to utilize tools and things like that. And that they create colonies in the trees. So that as one of them will sort of drop a fruit around a tree, and then the entire colony will ambush all of the rust monsters that pop up to see what's going on there. Something like that. So I just like the image of a giant tree full of cats just staring down at you, waiting to see what you're gonna do.
Okay, so if we're looking at a cat that's specialized to look at or to go after that hunts rust monsters, what you're saying? So intelligent enough to use very simple tools or understand very simple sort of circular things where if I make a thumping at the ground, it might disturb one of these things up. Their cats are able to climb. They're good jumpers, just in general. So living in the trees is more than doable.
Yeah, I feel like if these cats have a thin horn on the front of their face, because they have evolved in conjunction with these rust monsters, or if they have lower canines that are much larger, so almost sort of like boar's tusks, very specifically so that when a rust monster pops up, they can slide that horn or there's those teeth underneath one of the rust monster's defensive plates, lift it up, and then bite into like a nerve cluster, like down there, and disable the rust monster by getting through their exoskeleton. I think something like that would be.
Okay.
Phantom says iron claw cats resistant to acid resistant to acid. Claws are razor sharp when climbing the ironwood trees. That's a good point. Their claws would be sharpened all the time by just climbing up and down the ironbark trees.
Yeah, and they would have to be, like we know that it's that lignin that makes it's that binding agent it permeates the dead wood in the middle of the tree, that makes like really strong wood. It's not the outside. So the outside for an ironwood tree isn't going to be particularly tough.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering if these my curiosity is piqued because I'm wondering if these cats have some special advantage from living in this environment, or they get some special advantage. Like you're talking about, like specialized teeth so they can flip this creature over. That would make a lot of sense, because I mean, carrion crawlers are no joke. They're not weak by any stretch of the imagination. We know that they can dissolve metal on contact.
Yeah. For now, I'm going to call them tusk cats.
Yeah, a tusked cat.
Tusk cat. Tuskcats. Tusk cat.
Okay. You know it's a real tusk cat when it comes from the Tuscany region.
That's right.
Sorry, dad joke. Never mind. But
yeah, right. We need some vineyards. We need some little villas. All right, so tusk cats, a type of cat that has evolved to exist in the iron bark forests of merchantry. This cat, I want to figure out what the benefits would be of eating the rust monsters. Like, I feel like they also would gain sort of an acidic immunity so that they could actually process. They could actually process the thing. Oh my God.
Well, if there's, okay, so the advantage that it would have for eating rust monsters as opposed to other sorts of prey is that a rust monster is larger. It's a larger prey. It doesn't have much in the way of natural predators, so you don't have a lot of competition for that food source. So if this creature had adapted its own ability to eat it, that is its advantage, is that it has this ready food source that other people cannot ingest.
So I want these things to look really fabulous and cute, but to have a natural defense, because they exist in this place. So rust monsters, by just like, have absorbed the sort of acidic nature of this yellow mold, right? So if they're immune to acid, you would not be able to dissolve them in your gut if you had acidic stomach acid. So what I want to do is I want to have these tusk cats actually have evolved to have they are very basic instead of acidic. And so they are one of the few creatures that can actually consume rust monsters. But one of the things that would also give them is, because when you combine an acid and a base, you get an exothermic reaction. So they could potentially have some sort of like breath weapon that would be like an explosion of gas, something like that. Um, so it could absolutely be. I mean, and most cats have like anal glands, like they mark things. So it could absolutely be that theirs is like a little more explosive, sort of like a skunk. Like they would store like their basics in one side and then like the acid the from the rust monsters on the other side. And when they spray both of them at the same time, it creates an explosive reaction behind them. We could have flying tusk cats.
I am looking. I see like just things that can be found in nature that are bases: potassium, calcium, salt, sodium chloride, aluminum oxide are all listed as things, and ammonia is also
Ooh.
basic.
Well, no, I wouldn't. That would be a little gross having everybody sort of pee in everybody. Like that's not. But what I'm thinking is aluminum oxide, because aluminum just exists in the soil. So it could very well be that like one of the things that you have to do is like while you're eating a rust monster, you have to like eat dirt with it. You know, you'll see them like eating grass, but the reason they're eating the grass is for like the dirt and the roots, not for the actual grass stems. You know, oh, I just figured out how they attract the rust monsters. So instead of fruit, they go down, they eat grass. Like they'll use their tusks to sort of like rip up big chunks of like roots and stuff like that. They'll eat the grass and the dirt, and store the aluminum will oxidize in their blood. Then they will store that basic so that they can break down the meat of the rust monsters. But they also get all the grass, and instead of like coughing up hairballs, they cough up grass balls that then fall to the ground to attract the rust monsters.
Yeah, because their body can't actually digest those.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think that killing rust monsters with cat balls. Yay.
Or even just the jump and pounce instinctive behavior that cats have, where they'll leap up and pounce on things, might be enough. You know, if they did it, it might be enough to draw the attention of the rust monsters as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so you could. They have cat dances on the ground and then run up the tree. Like you just see like 5 or 6 of them like come down the tree and then like do a little dance in the plains and then run back up the tree again, and no one can figure out why they do it, because everyone that sees it then gets attacked by rust monsters. So oh my god. All right, do we want to go with grass balls, or do we want to go with cat dances?
I don't see why they could potentially use both. I think the part of me wants to say that the grass balls might be a good indication that those cats are just in the area.
Yeah.
Right. That might be like a sign that they're there.
And then occasionally you will see them do a Tuscat dance. You know, like
they're like, why are that cat there doing that weird pouncing thing under the tree? And oh my god!
All right, so this cat has grown enormous tusks as their lower canines have enlarged over the years. Their main source of food is the rust monsters that live in the root systems of the iron bark trees. In order to digest the acidic flesh of these huge insects, They must make their stomachs quite basic. They do this by consuming the aluminum-rich dirt. Aluminum-rich dirt, which comes along with a lot of grass. The Tuscats will cough up the grass in a similar way to hairballs, letting travelers know when they are in Tuscat territory. Occasionally, a traveler will get to witness the Tuscats hunting. A group will come down from the branches of the ironbark trees where they make their homes. They will begin bouncing up and down on the ground in a frolicking dance. Then a few moments later, will run back up the tree. After a few seconds, rust monsters begin tunneling up from their subterranean layers to investigate the movement on the land. When this happens, the groups of Tuscats will ambush the rust monsters. They use their large tusks to pry up the defensive plates on the backs of the rust monsters and use their teeth to dig into the flesh beneath, incapacitating the monsters before they can react. All right, fabulous. I love it. We have got, all right, there we go. Yay, we've got a whole new species that's super cute and spits grass balls at people and then dances.
Love it.
Oh my God.
This gives me so much joy, though. So much joy.
Absolutely. Chu says, amino acid sounds like that would make rust monsters excellent to break up, for roughage to break down chunky food in their stomach. Absolutely. The issue is that if their flesh is immune to acid, then you would just have a big old chunk of rust monster sitting in your tummy. And how to get rid of that then? Cat dancing grass balls, absolutely. You have grass ball. I mean, and I feel like it would, it would be like a super compacted grass thing. So I could totally see, like, if you didn't know the cats were there, that you might think that this is some sort of like craft of the people that live in this area. They make tightly woven grass balls for like their kids, to play with, something like that. Tuscats sounds like a mascot for a high school or regional sports team. They absolutely are. It's the Merchantry Tuscats. That's, I mean, I'm really sorry. I thought everybody knew that. Like, come on. Now we need to develop the sports team and the sport, I suppose, is going to be next week. We've got to develop a sports team and a sport to rep the Tusk Cats.
I am all for this. I think that would be a fun. I think it'd be a really fun thing to do for one of our days. Just
Absolutely.
That's a sport.
There's, the locals use the grass balls for their slingshots. Absolutely. I feel like they would be tightly packed enough that they could do some damage, you know, but would be like non-lethal weapons. So this would be great for law enforcement in the region. There's, he was trying to escape, but he got grass balled, boss. That would make me very happy. Pardon me while I need to. Ooh, my leg is doing a thing.
It's doing a thing. Oh no.
It is doing a thing. So I'm just gonna stand up for a second here. Pardon me, and do a little stretch over here. Because hi, I'm still here. I promise. Thomas is still here. We're still doing things. All right, so we've got that now. So we now have the sort of life cycle of these rust monsters. I think that will be delightful. We've got their predators to keep them in check. We have got, like their food source, which is, adventurers and, probably some unlucky tusk cats, who press their luck. Definitely become prey for them. What else would they be eating? Because I feel like having one big predator like the tusk cats in this region would be fine. We don't need a whole bunch more, especially if it's not a huge region,
Right.
So what else so we keep coming back to like an insect of some kind. What would be a fun, delightful insect to create? You want something with grubs.
I want something that with the pair, so that they have a reason to be around ironwood, because I'm guessing they would lay their eggs in the ironwood because it gives them a good chance to grow. Part of me just imagines. I think we love we really enjoy the lovely and the magical here. What about some sort of fly? Because most insects, to look at them, aren't fantastic, but sometimes they have beautiful wings.
Yeah.
What about when it emerges, it lets out these huge sort of iridescent wings that just sort of refract light in lovely ways and just sort of fly off. They would be close. They would hang out close to the trees because that's where their life cycle ends. But it would make the space where these trees grow just look magical.
Yeah. Ooh. Okay, so I'm thinking about insect mating, right?
I mean, who doesn't?
Yeah, no, I mean always. It's
all the time.
So what I'm thinking is we could have something that like their life cycle has to do with the fruit of the ironwood trees instead of like its bark or things like that. So they would lay their grubs in, or their eggs into the actual fruit itself. And then what that would mean is that they would have to, here can be the other thing that the rust monsters eat, is they would have to grow up, eat the fruit, and then develop their wings and fly away before the fruit fell to the ground, or else when it falls to the ground, a rust monster comes up and eats it. So that could be a reason that they utilize this as their spawning point, but do not just hang around all the time, that they then have to go somewhere else. I think also, in order to sort of like give the kitties a little fun thing to do, it could very well be that these are like sort of giant dragonflies that have like these gorgeous, almost like stained glass looking wings. But like, so it would be like the females just have regular wings, right? But they also have like in their tail, they've got this massively bioluminescent section. And the reason that they mate with someone is not because of like a pheromone or something like that, it's a visual cue, where when they light up their tail, they're looking for like the brightest colors in the canopy, because as the light passes through the stained glass wings of the males, that's how the males let you know that something amazing is going on, and that's what attracts the females. So they'll light up their tail, the light will shine through the wings of a dragonfly close to them, and if the colors are bright enough and interesting enough, they'll then mate with that male, lay their eggs, and start the cycle over again, so that evolutionarily every generation should become more colorful and more dramatic and things like that. So also, if you're going through the canopy at night, what you see in certain seasons is just these astonishing light shows inside the canopy of these ironwood trees, but also super fun for the cats.
I like that.
And that way there's actually two evolutionary imperatives. One is to have super fabulous bright colors, and the other is to be incredibly fast so that the cats can't catch you. So these things would be super fast, super gorgeous, and that would be their thing, instead of becoming like poisonous or something like that to fend off the cats.
That sounds awesome.
I like it. All right, now we've got, oh my God, so many notes on the animal sphere. All right, what are we gonna call these? What are they called? Like,
I see glow dragonflies.
okay, all right. Glow dragonflies is a delightful name. I think I want something that has more to do with the environment itself. For that, because typically when you think about like how most insects are named, it's like about where they live. It's like some of them it's like a physical feature, but a lot of times it's, some like meadow that they exist in is what, there's, I think I'd like to go in that direction. So some sort of, there is. Yes.
My mind just says flitterflies.
Glitterflies.
No, flitterflies.
Oh, flitterflies. Oh, I like
the alliteration. Glitterfly is also pretty. It kind of plays a little bit on the beauty of butterfly, which have nothing to do with butter, but at the same time, it's similar. Like you would imagine a beautiful looking insect from that name.
Absolutely. So these large dragonflies live in the canopies of the iron bark trees. They lay their eggs within the fruit of the trees, and their grubs consume the fruit as they grow. Once they are large enough to emerge, they do so Ooh, this could be a thing to like keep their populations down. Once they're large enough to emerge, they do so. But emerging from the fruit disturbs, destroys the fruit's stem, sending their siblings sailing to the ground where the sound attracts the rust monsters, who then eat the fruit and the remaining grubs. So that way you would have like the flitterflies would be a little rarer, you know, but beautiful.
Right.
Beautiful and delightful. And that way we could also make them much larger so that they're not like a tiny little insect. They can be like a much bigger insect that grows very quickly. And that way it wouldn't just destroy the trees that they're in. They could be a symbiotic relationship instead of a destructive overeating one. Who then eat the fruit and the remaining grubs. When mating, let's see, so let's then, all right, males of this species have huge prismatic wings that look like stained glass. They are greatly prized by artisans who use the wings in decorative items for the wealthy denizens of the continent. A flitterfly cloak can sell for upwards of, I'm going to say, 5,000 gold pieces in the right market. The females do not have these wings, but they have a massively bioluminescent tail. During mating, the female will light her tail, and that light will pass through the wings of the males. Whichever male has the most colorful display will be the male she mates with. They will then lay several eggs into dozens of iron bark fruits. Fabulous. All right, cool. So we've got a fabulous insect called a flitterfly, which is now, you know, so I feel like what we're doing here is we are creating a very dangerous area that has a lot of reasons for people to come into it in order to obtain resources, whether it's flitterfly wings or ironbark wood or, you know, things like that. So there would be plenty of people coming in and being eaten by by the rust monsters. So I think that's fun and delightful. There is a could the flitterflies draw adventurers in because they are a component for magic in this world, like a version of dancing lights or an illusion? Um, ooh, that is a very good question. Let me see. I feel like flitterflies. You know what we're gonna say? Instead of it being a component, um, if you use it as a component, it will elevate any color-based spell by one spell level. I feel like something like that, but it's used up in the process. And in addition, using the wings as a spell component for any color-based magic, colored lights, hypnotic pattern, will allow you to cast the spell as though you were using a spell slot one level higher. The wings are consumed in this process. So it would definitely be something where it's like, if you want to your prismatic spray, you could use like these wings to cast it. I think it's a 7th level spell, so you could use it to cast it at 8th level instead of 7th level, things like that. So doing a little more damage. I think that's fun. And then you can have your flitterfly cloak, which would just be this gorgeous sort of see-through prismatic cloak that everywhere you go, anytime you're around any sort of light source, you look like a disco ball. I feel like rich people could absolutely like hang the cloak like in front of like a mirror or in front of a window or something like that, and then as the light passes through it, a little sort of light show happens, outside.
I can see Loretta Lynn wearing it. Yeah,
absolutely, she would.
She
absolutely a thing.
Yeah. I love it. I do remember seeing Loretta Lynn perform, and it was a delightful performance. And as she got up to sing, she wore a rhinestone dress, which it was absolutely gorgeous, I'm guessing. But from my perspective, where I was a little bit higher up, and with the way that the bright lights because it was a smaller stage, were shining off of her, it hurt to gaze upon her. like I listened to her music, but I sort of just like didn't look at her because it kind of hurt my eyes to look at her because she was absolutely so reflective, so bright.
Well, and those things, like I've seen, I don't know if you've ever seen Christopher Peterson perform. He used to be, he bills himself as the foremost female impersonator in North America because he's from Canada. And he has been performing, for literally decades. I want to say probably for like 35 years now. He very recently retired. But he used to, for instance, co-host with Anderson Cooper CNN's New Year's thing.
Okay.
So he would be the one with Anderson Cooper down in not Fort Lauderdale. What's the island? Key West. So he would be down there in Key West with Anderson Cooper hosting this each year. But I used to live in Rehoboth Beach, and he would spend his summers performing in Rehoboth Beach and literally like sold out crowds every single night. And what his thing is that he would do like impersonations of every single gay icon throughout the evening while showing you how to like do drag and all this kind of stuff. So he'd show you like, makeup and wigs and like how to create fake boobs and like all this kind of stuff if you don't have a bunch of money. And in the Icons show that is the one that I saw several times, he would come out to start as Marilyn Monroe.
Okay.
And he would be singing Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend, right?
Right.
And he would have the rhinestone dress on. And he would talk about how this dress literally weighs like 60 pounds. Like just how heavy, because it's friggin' rhinestones. And in order to get the rhinestones on there, you have to have some sort of metal. So you're essentially wearing like a chainmail and diamond dress. It was amazing.
For fashion, am I right?
That's right. That's right. Well, the thing that I loved about him, just random side note, is that he would show you how to change a character on the spot just by shifting one thing about what you're doing. So when he would start with Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend, in the very breathy Marilyn Monroe voice, he would have the Marilyn Monroe wig on. It was just gorgeous, you know. And then in the middle of the song, he would just like take his wig and switch it. So now, because it's a super blonde, like platinum wig, now he's Carol Channing. Because she always had that weird sort of updo in the front, right, which you have feathered in the back for Marilyn Monroe. So he just switched his wig around and then immediately was Carol Channing doing Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend, which was one of the things that made her famous on Broadway. And just, it was so glorious to watch this like tiniest little thing. Just switch one thing and suddenly you go from, one of my other favorites was, he would do Judy Garland and then switch up like one thing and suddenly become Liza Minnelli doing the same song, you know, in a completely different way. And it's just, oh, it just made me so happy. So if you ever get a chance to go and see Christopher Peterson's Icons, do it. It's amazing.
Why are Canadians so good at everything?
Right. I don't know. I don't know.
Y'all just need to stop. You're hogging the spotlight.
Yeah. It hurts my feelings. I want you to know.
Yeah. take a fiver, you know, drink high tea, you know. Go get a Timmy's.
You know what? It is high tea. It is like in the afternoon, you take a moment to just really enjoy something truly whimsical and delightful in your life. High tea, I feel like there's no way to be mean about like tea and finger sandwiches. I feel like that's really difficult. Oh my God. I feel like we have done a fabulous job really coming up with like a totally functional ecosystem here. We can definitely pepper in some other things in there, but we have got, you know, this sort of 5 species ecosystem where everything works with itself. You've got, you know, you start with an ironbark tree. You've got the things that feed the ironbark tree. You've got the things that live on the ironbark tree. You've got the things that eat the fruit. You've got the rust monsters that feed the ironbark and use the yellow mold to like protect their babies and then eat the cats and the fruit and the insects, you know, and the adventurers, of course. Of course. There's and then you've got like the yellow mold that then gets to expand throughout the ironbark forest. And, you know, there's the whole mycelial network. So I feel like, ooh, that's a thing that I need to add up here to the yellow mold. The new yellow mold was quickly created. This this species of yellow mold maintains a network of mycelial threads to all of the other molds in the area, giving the forest a way to communicate major threats to the other areas of the forest almost instantaneously. There we go. So that's one of the reasons that it's there. It actually helps the ironwood trees like recognize when there is a threat. We'll have to figure out what the threat response of, you know, like the ironbark forest is, but it might be something like all of the rust monsters go on the rampage. You know, like, if there's a major threat, suddenly like the mold gives off a pheromone and all of the rust monsters pop up and just like do something crazy. So if somebody starts like burning down one of the ironwood trees or something like that, the whole village can be destroyed, you know, if you get too close. Oh, that's why it's a pristine area, is because if you get too close to any of the trees and hurt them, like a swarm of rust monsters will then just appear on your doorstep and just destroy everything that you've been building. I think that's delightful. That's why there's no colonies within the ironwood forest. Within the hissing plains, there are no colonies. Oh my gosh.
This is awesome.
There we go. So we've got that. All right. We've got fabulous, we've got new monsters. We've got Tuskats and we've got flitterflies, which are just both delightful and seem glorious. Hey, chat, I hope that you have enjoyed all of this. I think that it's super fun and delightful. Is there anything else that you want to wrap up, Connor?
I think, but it would require a little bit more of a conversation. We should definitely revisit this mycelial network.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that would be a great thing to talk about, like what it can do, what it knows, can it be communicated with?
Yeah.
You know, that I think that would be pretty dang cool.
Oh shit! You know what we need to do is we need to tie it in. There's already an NPC who is all about mushrooms. His name is Glapry, and he runs the myconid colony.
Okay.
So it could very well be that like Glapry is knows how to communicate. So we could pull Glapry into the setting as the person. There's some fun things that Lando doesn't know this yet. Only Michael knows it at this point. But there is
Stop listening, Lando.
So you've got so they ran into Glapry when they went into the Underdark and they found the mycelial city, right? Or the myconid city. Okay. There is a mushroom, a giant mushroom that is like 200 feet tall, and in its cap, it actually houses the myconid market. The fun thing about the myconid market is that it exists on a bunch of different planes at the same time. So there are places in the myconid market where you can enter the ethereal plane, just like walking through a doorway. And there's a different section of the market on the ethereal plane. Now they know that, but there's also it's called the mycelial market. Okay. And what that is you can only see it if you're hallucinating. So only if you've taken some sort of hallucinogenic mushroom can you see this part of the market. You will look to your friends like you are just sort of like drooling on yourself and wandering around. But in fact, there's an entire market called the Unreal Market where you can purchase real items, but only if you are hallucinating. And when you get back to the world, the items remain real. So the things that you've purchased there are real. Unfortunately, they can never be fixed because they are also from a hallucination. So,
So
and
you're
so
basically
Glapri,
you're going into the matrix.
So Glapri is in charge of the whole of the whole market, and the market itself is actually Glapri's planar touchstone.
Okay.
And so what I'm thinking is that he could be the connection to the mycelial network, and that like there is a whole layer of this world that you can enter through the mycelial network that's sort of like a simulation almost, but it's really the Unreal Market is powered by this mycelial network. But it's not just the market, that's just where people go because there's stuff there. There's an entire world, there's a layer of reality that you can only access through the mycelial network, and only if your mind is opened by some sort of hallucination. You just can't comprehend it otherwise. There is, and I think something like that would be fabulous because that could then extend, you could use the same continent and have like 3 separate layers of reality that don't necessarily interact with each other there. You could have the ethereal section, and since the myconids have access to that, you could create a whole ethereal, colony, a whole country that only exists in the ethereal plane and has different issues than others. And like they have to be around the marketplace because food does not grow in the ethereal plane. You have to go back to the real world to like get supplies and things like that. But then there's also the unreal space that doesn't interact with either of them. So you can have a whole continent that is just unreal with unreal creatures and unreal, like, I would love it if like that guy that you think is like a homeless guy on the street that looks like they're just drunk and passed out is actually like the mayor of this city in the unreal realm. And there's like, and he's just drinking hallucinogenic juice all the time to keep himself, like to make sure that his city functions, just stuff like that. Yes, so absolutely. I feel like we should talk about the mycelial network next time. And oh my gosh. All right, Lando, you can come back now. Right, fabulous. I think that we should head out. Connor, I want to thank you so much for being here. You're such a delight. I always have a fabulous time with you.
It's great to visit with you too, Kyle. And to visit with all the viewers. We appreciate you coming and watching us come up with silly ideas and laugh and tell funny anecdotes.
The sort of 50-50 split between actual world building and just telling stories that then inspire us to do things in the world building. I would like to say that it's really important to remember that when you're creating something, there will be times when you can sit down and you can write something for hours, where it's just like 3 or 4 hour stretch and everything comes out and it's all these perfect ideas, and that's great if that can happen. But the vast majority of the time, it'll be like, what about this? What's this over here? And the creative process is not a straightforward one. That telling stories to your friends is absolutely part of the creative process because it helps you process those creative thoughts and find the interesting connections, things like that. So don't get don't get down on yourself if you're creating something and your brain's like, I want to be over here talking about these things. It could be a very fruitful avenue of creative thought. It's really important. So, hey, Connor, where can we find you all over the intranets?
Well, I would love it if people would follow me. So if you're looking to speak with me, you can follow me on Twitter at the Healer DM. I will put it into chat so you can see how it's spelled. If it will work, you can feel free to follow me there on Twitter. It's my console locked down right now for reasons, but I'm not going to get into right now. But you can feel free to follow me. You can physically add me and I'll approve you. I tend to mutual people, so I will follow you back. In addition, you can look for me on the internet on my website. My website is thehealerdm.card.com. So if you go to this website, you can find me there. That's how you can find me. Where can we find you, Kyle?
Well, you can find me sort of all over the place. So you can find me on Twitter at AlliesNerd. You can find me here on Twitch, of course, at this channel. We do every other week, we do the Fabulous Wonders of the World building stream. We also do 2 actual play streams, one on Tuesday at 4 p.m., one on Wednesday at 11 a.m. And then we do Magnificent Mythologies on Fridays at 11 a.m. In addition to that, we are going to be doing a limited 6-episode series with Coyote and Crow, where they're going to bring on 2 creators onto our channel on Fridays in the afternoon. And they're going to teach people how to play Coyote and Crow. So they're going to explain the differences between like 5e and their system, rolling the dice, creating the characters. What is a decolonized world? What does that look like? What does that feel like? And you will get to interact with fabulous people from the Coyote and Crow Company, who's amazing. They were called out by Matt Mercer all over the place because it's such a phenomenal idea, and they did such a beautiful job with not only the setting, but all of the artwork and the storytelling. It's just gorgeous. So definitely check out Coyote and Crow. And that is going to be sponsored by Hero Forge. And thank you, Hero Forge, for stepping up for people of color in our community and for LGBT plus people in our community. Because of them, we will actually be able to pay everybody involved in creating that show for the time that they're spending, which is really exciting for us because it's the first time that we've been able to like really effectively compensate. You know, we're all sort of scraping by, trying to get things to happen, and the people that are playing with us in our actual plays are doing because they absolutely love it. They love being here. It's a super fun game, all of that kind of stuff. But our ultimate goal is to make sure that everybody's getting paid all the time, and we are slowly getting there. It's not an easy path, nor is it a fast path. So, but this is going to be our first one where we've got a limited series where everybody gets paid, and I'm so excited. So excited. Awesome. You can find us over at Discord at Plain Nerd Allies as well. So jump in, join the conversation, have all of the fun. And Lando, why don't we do a fabulous dice giveaway, and then we're going to go rage somebody, because that's delightful.
Yeah.
Yay. Let's see who's gonna win. Phantom. Okay, so I have to tell everybody, so Phantom won last time, and I literally just today connected them with Phoenix Dice so they could get their free dice, and they gave their dice to me as a housewarming present. So thank you very much, Phantom, for that. I just saw that on the Discord. That's amazing. You are fabulous. And now, Connor, you get fabulous dice from Phoenix Dice,
Yay!
Care of Phantom, Phantom, how many times have you won?
I have heard people talk about Phoenix Dice for ages, and I didn't want to enter because I always wanted to go to a viewer And I'm like, but I want to see these dice. I want to hold these dice.
They're gorgeous. Yeah, they are gorgeous, gorgeous dice. So Connor, please send me a message on Discord, and I will connect you with Phoenix Dice, where you can get some fabulous Phoenix Dice. And stick around for the raid because you get all kinds of channel points. So if you follow us and you are doing cool things and you want to come see the actual plays, you will have fabulous ally points that you can use to help the characters do cool things, is what you can do. So now we're going to go raid Mendari, who is a member of the Rolling Together stream team, is absolutely delightful and is doing world building of her own. So let's go say hi to her. Yay!
Hey, Mendari.
Mwah!
Bye, everybody.